First thing I want to talk about is this. There was this question, I think, early on, in the previous week, about the difference between putting the script tag in the head or in the body. So we have our HTML here. It's running in a mini browser environment here on the right. We can also like open the console from this virtual environment, and we can kind of like simulate our own browser and the code running on some web server. So we know that we can create a script tag, JavaScript tag, and we can place it anywhere we want, right? Like literally anywhere in the HTML. But we have some good practices that we need to follow. So first of all, the only two sections inside your HTML that you should like add and use HTML tags are within the HTML element. So any HTML tags should be put inside the HTML. So let's write a rule here. So HTML best practices. Always make sure to put your HTML tags inside the HTML tag, which is like the container element. So I can put like a script tag here. I can also, I don't know, like put, and I can do all sorts of crazy things with like with HTML, because HTML is not a programming language, it's programming language, and it's pretty flexible. It allows us to almost do anything we want. It tries its best to kind of like provide the best output to the browser, but we should be keeping the rules and the best practices. So any HTML tag should be inside the HTML. And more specifically, we have these two nested elements inside the HTML, the head and the body. So all HTML tags should either go inside the head or inside the body, not outside the HTML, and of course not outside the head or the body. So if we apply this to our rule here, make sure to put your HTML tags inside the HTML tag, and more specifically inside the let's say the head or the body tags. Let's put this is markdown, so I'm just going to syntax highlight this. So only inside the head or the body. Now, there are special HTML elements that should be used inside the body, and there are special elements that should be used inside the head. For example, a title tag belongs to the head, a meta tag belongs to the head, a div belongs to the body, and a script belongs to both the head and or the body. So there's this question, okay, I know that title goes here in the head, I know that div goes here in the body, but why should I put like the script either here or in the head? What's the difference? So let's try and write some JavaScript code. And in order to see like some JavaScript like code running, we can either place like a simple alert function, which will, if I click save and I refresh this mini browser, let me see. I'm not sure why we're not seeing this message. I will add the script here, and I will alert something like, you know, hello world. And then I will save. And then when I refresh or the page loads, I will see the script running, and I will see the message hello world. Now, who can help me understand what type of value am I passing here to the alert function? What is this? What is the type of this value? It's a string. Okay. So we run this alert, and we see this annoying pop-up box. It's annoying because if while this pop-up alert box is open, we cannot interact with the page. We cannot let the rest of the code run. So it's kind of like a really blocking function. So it just blocks the program right there. It blocks the browser. And unless we hit OK, nothing else will happen. So try to use alert with caution. Like we prefer other methods because it's kind of like a blocking thing, and it's not good for user experience. But for now, it does our job well. Another thing, another method that we can use to quickly display things and check something, whether JavaScript runs or whether an expression is evaluated and it gives us the correct result, is to use the console log. So the console log uh, also allows us to log, as the word says, some values, but this time it logs this value in the console. So as you can see, if I have my browser, let's say if I open this in the browser, there will be no blocking operation. I will just see an empty page because I haven't added any HTML, and I won't see any pop-up box or anything. Everything will run fine. But if I open the console tab with F12, if I press F12 and I open the console, I will see my hello world. So all, let's say, developer-related messages are console logged right here, and we can see them through the console. So the console is basically like a developer tool. No normal user should use or should open and see and check the console. The users see this thing, like this page with of course some content, and the developers log some things so that they can only see these messages and debug their program, or provide some useful information. So this is like the developer, let's say, area. Now let's go back here. Okay, I have the console log because it's much more friendly and easier to work with than the alert that stops the execution of the program and stops the page from being displayed. So I will use like an H1 just to see something also on the page. Now, if I move this program, this script tag, inside the body, and I refresh, I will see the same result. Now, because I'm running this again and I'm seeing the same string, I'm curious whether I'm seeing the last message or a new message. Like, is this hello world being console logged from the previous execution, or from the previous reload, or from the latest save? So I can either change the message, let's say hello world 2, see whether, okay, now this is like my second like attempt to save the code. So now I'm sure that this code works. Or another trick that we can use for quickly seeing like a completely new message every time we like reload or we save and run a new code, is to append to this string the math.random function, the result of the math.random function. So the math.random function returns a random number, a pseudo kind of like fake number, random number. Let me just display this random number. So this thing will evaluate, once JavaScript sees this string, it will evaluate to a random number that starts from 0 and ends to 0.999999 without including 1. So it's just a random number, a random floating point number between 0 and 1, excluding 1. So by using this simple trick, I can refresh and I can always see a new number. So now I'm absolutely sure that my new code is running, my new saved changes are being displayed, and I'm not seeing like the previous message. Okay, I know that my code works here in the body. I know that my code works here on the head. I can move it, right here at the end. I can also move it here and see that it still runs. But remember, let's play well and move it here inside the body or inside the head. Now, at this point, if we were like to write some code, some JavaScript code that does some calculation or run something that does not depend on the HTML or the CSS of the page, then we can move the script wherever we want inside this this HTML file. There's no difference in having the script here or in the head. It will always console log let's say, the result here. Now, there is a small difference in that when the browser loads this index.html page, so when we visit like a web address, like this crazy looking like web address, we load an HTML file. In this case, the browser will load this index.html. Now, once the browser starts reading the HTML file, it will start going from line 1 up until the end of the file, and it will start interpreting this HTML language line by line. So there's an HTML engine, like an HTML interpreter in the browser, which is able like to parse HTML line by line and then display or do things according to the instructions found in this language. So the difference between script at the head and at the body is that if I have a script that is running, let's say, running a very heavy calculation, let's say I don't know, I'm running a function that run function that takes I don't know, 5 minutes. Let's say there is an imaginary function that is taking like 5 minutes to in order to execute and produce the result. There's no such function. I'm just imagining there is a function. Now the difference between the head and the body is that if I were to move this script right here, once the page will load, the browser will start interpreting the HTML from line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, display the title, meta, set the encoding for the text to UTF-8, and then it will start executing this script. So it goes line by line from top to bottom. Now, if it finds this script on line 6 and starts to execute the function that takes 5 minutes to execute, it will stop here, and it will have to wait 5 minutes until we see the title, right? So we will be waiting 5 minutes for the script to execute until we go to line, let's say 11, and then 13, and then H1, and then 15. Now, the only consideration here is that if our JavaScript takes like 5 minutes or takes a long time to execute, we will be blocking the rendering of this page. Now, I don't know, let me run some JavaScript code that, no, I will not run this. Okay, so at this point, we can just move the script right here, right before the closing body tag, so that when the index.html page loads, the browser will start from line 1, line 2, line 3. All these like commands will run instantly in like milliseconds. So we will instantly be seeing the title and the content of the page, and we will start like reading articles or doing something with the page. After just a few milliseconds after the page has been loaded and the user knows that, okay, everything works fine, my internet is working, this website is working, then JavaScript will start running the script, and it will take 5 minutes and produce, I don't know, like a song or a video or something, some calculation that takes 5 minutes. So the best thing we can do is we can always put the script right before the closing body tag. Let me put this rule here, and we can go to answer Leon's question. So, JS, or let's say HTML best practices. I would say try most of the times to place your script tags, because we might have more than one script, right before the closing body tag. Okay, for performance considerations, for not blocking the HTML, and for the things that we touched. Now let's go back to answer Leon's question about the HTML. So if I move this script here, let me. Okay, if I move the script here, it means that when this JavaScript gets executed, the browser interpreter, the browser will just have read only these lines of code. So at this point, the JavaScript might be interpreted and it might be executing, but this thing is not yet read by the browser, is not yet interpreted, and is not like it's just invisible for the browser and for JavaScript. So up at this point, you can like think that HTML and JavaScript have no idea about this part. So if JavaScript at this point would like to do something with HTML, now if I run this, I'm not sure whether it will run. Okay, let me just remove this. So at this point, the browser sees nothing. There's no title, there's no body. It's still in the JavaScript part. And also JavaScript can only see all this HTML. The rest of the code is invisible to both HTML and JavaScript. That's why we have to let the HTML browser read through the whole HTML. I hope I have the undo here, yes, and then run something with the HTML. Now let's go and check what Leon mentioned. So let's say that our JavaScript would like to change the title. Now, I'm going to use a command that I want you to just disregard for now. Like, don't worry too much about this command. We're going to go through these commands in the upcoming weeks, but I will just use a simple command. So there's a document command in JavaScript that gives us access through JavaScript to the web document, to the web page. And we can say, we can use a command that's available in this document. Let's say, thing for now, and it will allow us to pick an element like sorry, no, the element h1. Let me move this here for now for the body. So this command will go to the document. It has access, it gives access to the document, to the HTML page, to JavaScript. It will run this command that will query the document and find a selector h1. And then it will return back like the HTML element found by this query selector. Once it finds this element, we can change things like the text content. I can say, hey, it's AS. Let's see if this works. So what happened here? I will comment this command, and I will try to become the HTML interpreter. So the HTML was loaded in the browser. The browser started reading line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, 6, blah, blah, blah. It went to line 9. It found an h1 tag. It interpreted this h1 tag and displayed this thing on the right. So now the HTML contains this h1 tag. There's an empty div. I'm just going to get rid of this, and also this one. Now, since the HTML and JavaScript both know about these things, when we go to execute the JavaScript can also access things that were like previously interpreted and displayed in the screen. So after the h1 has been rendered, we can query the document, grab the h1, and change its text content to hey JavaScript. So let me just save. So now this works. But if I move this to the head, you can see that, let me just clear the console and refresh. You can see that nothing happens. Why? Because at this point, when this script is executed, this thing is not there. So JavaScript tries to go to the document, query a selector named h1. It's not there. There's not going to be text content. There's going to be an error and so forth. So nothing will happen. And in a real environment, we will probably see some kind of error. Like this is a playground, so some things are hidden for us just to start with JavaScript and HTML. So that's the difference with HTML, which is even more important, or at least as equally important as the performance things. That's why whenever we are going to be dealing with HTML, we always put the JavaScript right before the closing body tag. So all the main HTML has been loaded, and we can access, and we can even access the body, even though we're still before the closing body tag. The body is still here. It contains all the content, and we can still access the body. This doesn't really matter to JavaScript. So we have everything we need. So another rule, try most of the times to place your script tags right before the closing body for performance reasons, not to block the HTML rendering. And then for being able to access, so for waiting for the HTML to load and access it through JS. So these are the rules that govern the placement of the script tag. We know the rules. Put all HTML tags inside the body or the head. Preferably use the script tags right here. Use them in an order that makes sense. So for example, if I want my second script to run after the first script, I will have to put it here. Otherwise, I will move this, let's say, here. So you can move all your scripts right before the closing body tag, right? And then, of course, you have to make sure that they execute or that you place them in the order that makes sense. If this script relies on something that runs on the first script, you have to put it afterwards. Since we're at this best practices point and you're still beginning, I have one tip that I want to share with you. I call it like the training wheels approach. So when you start running HTML and you want to keep in mind these best practices, I want to give you this advice. So whenever you start a new HTML file, you start with a blank HTML, right? So you don't start by putting all your content. You start with an HTML boilerplate, and then you start adding your content in the body. So before starting, my advice would be before starting to do anything with your empty boilerplate HTML, go right here and create an HTML comment and say JavaScript goes goes here. This is just a reminder to yourself in the first few weeks. This is kind of like a training wheels. So to remind you that, hey, the JavaScript, if I'm about to add a JavaScript file, I will always put it here. So here, JavaScript, okay, ends here. I will share this in my notes. So start by reminding yourself for the correct place, the best place where to place your JavaScript. So these are your training wheels. For the first few weeks, you want to put them there so that you don't accidentally put your script in the head or maybe in the like before the HTML. And then after a few days or a few weeks, you just take away your training wheels and you are a professional JavaScript developer. So this is my tip here. Now, if I put this here, I know that this goes right here. So let me just write this here in my training wheels for script placement. JavaScript goes here, ends here. I will share this. This is a markdown, so I can have this syntax highlighting. So if you feel that you want some help in the beginning and reminding yourself, you can use these training wheels, as I call them. After a while, you will get accustomed to this placement, so you will get rid of the training wheels.